Hi everyone, it's Garrett slash Coffee Stitcher. Obviously, because this is my channel, so who else would be here? Um, this is my gazillionth attempt at making this video. I keep getting interrupted, or having people talk to me, or noise in the background, or cell phone going off, or first one thing and another. I got it done a little bit ago, and it was way too dark. You really couldn't see anything. So hopefully this one works. I really want this one to work. Anyhow, so tonight I'm going to show you a gift I got from a fabulous friend of mine. You're going to get treated to a little bit of a rant, which the more I've done it, the less it feels like a rant and more like me just whining, but I'm going to keep it in. I'm going to do the Know Your Needleworker tag that Whimsidaisical created. And I'm going to talk a little bit about variegated threads and what I've done with them. Because the same friend that sent me the gift also asked, how did you do some of this stuff? So there we go. First, my fabulous friend Kimmy sent me 2 Mill Hill kits. The first was this one, I Love Coffee. And it's awesome. It's got coffee, and I don't know how well you can tell, but it's purple. Purple's my favorite color. I absolutely love coffee. And cross stitch, obviously, I love. So it's like 3 of my favorite things all in one project. How could you not love it? I also want to apologize. I've been watching a lot of Gilmore Girls, so bear with me. She also got me Holiday 9. 9, right? Yeah, IX is 9. It's been a very long time since I had to do Roman numerals, which is funny because one of my favorite, not one of my favorite trout fishing in America song, the Big Rig song, at one point they count the wheels on a big rig and Roman numerals, and it's actually my favorite part of the song. But it's Santa putting a star on a tree, and it says ho ho ho, and it's really cute, and I have a thing for Santa. Not like that. That would be weird. No daddy complexes here. But, I do really like Santa Claus, but that's a story probably for closer to Christmas. So yeah, so thank you, Kimmy, giving you a hug. This isn't weird at all. No. No. I'm sitting on the floor. Actually, I'm sitting in a beanbag chair. Okay, so ranty time. Which I apologize because several of you saw this post on a Facebook group, so there may be no one who hasn't heard this story already, but you're going to hear it again, and you're going to like it. So, I live in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, which answers one of the questions in Know Your Needleworker, but there you go. I live in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, and one of my best friends lives on the opposite end of the Metroplex than I'm on. So we were hanging out one day, and there was a cross-stitch store, a local needlework shop, near there, or near her. It's Creative Stitches in North Dallas. And it's not overly convenient for me, so I've never really gone to it, and I probably wouldn't go back for multiple reasons, not the least of which is the distance. But when we got over there, the first thing that happened was we walked in, and the ladies were like, "Can we help you? Like, what are you doing here? You clearly are lost." And I was like, "Oh, I'm looking for the Week's Dyed Works, because I just got the Frosted Pumpkin Stitcheries Once Upon a Time sampler, and it needed 3 colors." And they're like, "Oh," and they got a little bit nicer to me at that point, but you'd be picking social diseases to compare the tone both times. So, and I should have known after their first greeting that I was in for a problem. What I really should have known was when we walked over to the wall of floss, and it was literally like someone had just tossed them at the wall. And I'm super OCD, or as I call it, CDO. And there was no rhyme or reason to it. They were not alphabetical. They were not numerical. They weren't even grouped by color. Or there was no discernible pattern. It took us 10 minutes to find 3 colors. It was a big, big store. There was very little in it. The charts I started sort of flicking through them and realized that there was no organization to them either, and I didn't care. Um, and so then I needed some fabric, and so I asked what they had in the way of 14 count Aida. And the lady said, oh, well, you should really do it on 28 count linen. Just stitch over to it. It'll look so much better on linen. Blah, blah, blah. And I am going on, and I don't mean to say blah, blah, blah. I mean, she was going on and on and on about linen. I was like, well, I can understand your feeling, but I'm still very new at this. This is a really big project. I'm a little intimidated by linen. I would feel more comfortable doing this on Aida. Well, fine. So we picked up the Aida that I got, which, as you've seen, is that I found out it's by Zweigart, I think. Is that a company? Zweigart? Is that actually a company? I think it is. We're going to say it is, because that's the only thing I found. It's Whisper Blue, and it's 14 count Aida, and I think it's a gorgeous fabric. It's been perfect for this project. And I gave him the stitch count. She said, well, how do you plan on finishing it? And I said, well, probably framing it. She said, okay. Cuts my fabric, hands it to me. She was a little bit nicer towards the end of the transaction, but not appreciably so. So I wasn't overly impressed with them, and honestly, the distance, it doesn't really justify ever going back over there unless they're having, like, some sort of crazy thing, like, I don't know, like a Lizzie Kate trunk show or something. You know, or Carol Channing and Don McKechnie and Liza Minnelli are all giving a concert for them. I would go to that. I'd be insane not to go to that. But I might also be insane to go to that. That's a tangent, though. So, flash forward to today. Or not today, but Sunday, when I was in the mood to watch movies I hadn't seen before, so I was really not wanting to stitch on something that was going to require more than a few counting. So I decided I would finish out the gridding blocks for each of the months. And I still haven't done the border, because if you remember, I may have said, I may not have said, but I think I said, I got off, and so all my blocks are off one by one. So I'm waiting until this is all done, although now that the blocks are in, I could probably figure it out, to go back and put the border in. And I don't know if you can tell or not, but there is almost no space left at the bottom. I have about 10 rows left of stitching, and then I'll have about 4 rows. 4 rows. Not going to get framed. No clue. No clue what I'm going to do. And what really actually irritates me is I come from a sewing background with costumes, and so we never use the selvage. You always ignore the selvage, and you go from you just act like that's not there from your measurement count, because selvages are frequently not in the right order. Well, they left the selvage end on. Fortunately, when I folded this in half, I don't know why I did it this way. I mean, this just goes against everything I was ever taught as a costumer. So I'm thinking that July Garrett was looking into the future and being smart. Really couldn't tell you, though. But if I hadn't included the selvage, I would probably only have about 1 row below the bottom stitch. If that. So there you go. I hate that place. I will never go back. So there you go. Conversely, I absolutely adore Stitch Niche. It's in Arlington. Wonderful people work there. Wonderful people own it. They have all sorts of really cool things, and she has the greatest inventory system ever, because she told me, and I quote, if you don't see it, I order it. How great is that? I mean, seriously. I'm so excited for Small Business Saturday on the 29th? Whatever day, the Saturday after Black Friday, because they are getting a lot of my money. Word. I don't know what that was. Alright, rant over. So now I'm going to do the Know Your Needleworker, and I've got to pull up the questions on my tablet because I can't change tabs. I mean, I probably could, but I'd be afraid. So bear with me for a moment. Yes, I want to use that one. I'm drinking a Coke. And I'm wearing my glasses because my eyes have been really dry the last couple of nights. So, since dry eyes make me tired and I don't really want to go to bed at 7 o'clock at night, we're gonna do the glasses thing. And I bet y'all didn't know that I actually wore glasses. Actually, anyone who's friends with me on Facebook probably did, because most of my pictures have glasses. Do. Alright, come on. Come on, Eileen. I like 80s music. Damn it, I'm answering questions early. I shouldn't be. I'm a terrible person. Absolutely terrible. Yeah, how do I pause this? There we go. Okay. So, I already answered where do I live. I live in Dallas-Fort Worth. I live more on the Fort Worth side of things. It's kind of a big cluster of bunches of cities that grew in together because city planning didn't exist. Yeah. Our roads are always under construction. For a living, I'm a Starbucks manager. I do a lot of coffee. Hence why Kimmy, excuse me. Why Kimmy got me the gift. And now I feel terrible because I called her the wrong name. I know you're Kimmy. I love you, Kimmy. I love you. Double I love you. And a heart. I do not have any children. God forbid. Working in retail has kind of ruined me on ever wanting children. And it's become a bit of a joke between my employees and myself when there's a really phenomenally bad child with an equally phenomenally bad parent, and they do something really obnoxious, like open up a package of honey and spread it all over the condiment bar, which is why I don't keep honey on my condiment bars anymore. It's usually followed with a very quick rule number 300: why you won't have children, right? So yeah. So no children. My family does have 2 pets, though. We have 2 dogs. We have a collie, who is too damn smart, and a Maltese poodle mix, who I'm pretty sure is... We'll put it to you this way. She's a few sequins short of Elton John. Or is it Liberace that had sequins? Whichever one. You know what I mean. So those are our 2 dogs. I don't call them fur babies because I think that seems weird. And then I have 2 teddy bears that aren't really pets, and one of them, it's probably a slightly unhealthy obsession. But his name is Honey Bear, and then I also have Duffy, but they're in the other room, and I don't feel like going and getting them. One of my other hobbies, I collect theater memorabilia, although not quite like I did. This is the majority of my Playbill collection. I have all sorts of crazy things. I also have cast albums. I have a lot of DVDs and CDs. I also collect The Wizard of Oz. That would take even longer to show you. I like to read, but I don't really read all that much. I like to research stuff. Like, I really like, if I watch a movie, I'm typically going to hit Wikipedia and IMDb and read all the trivia about it and the development and this, that, and the other, because I think that's fun. So yeah, that's kind of it in terms of the hobbies. Cross-stitching is really my primary hobby. My favorite movie, Wizard of Oz. Second favorite movie, Great Muppet Caper. Beyond that, it kind of breaks down by genre. Favorite pre-90s slasher film is Halloween. Post-90s, or post-1990, I guess I should say, is Scream. I love anything with the Muppets just about. My favorite Disney movie is The Little Mermaid, followed very closely in a 3-way tie with The Rescuers, Sleeping Beauty, and Beauty and the Beast. Favorite movie musical is either 1776 or Hedwig and the Angry Inch. Favorite comedy is Clue. Favorite drama is To Kill a Mockingbird. favorite suspense movie is a toss-up between Psycho and Zodiac. Um, so yeah, I like a lot of movies. Um, favorite TV show, again, that's just, it's easier to list. And Gilmore Girls is one of my tops. Third Rock from the Sun, Friends, Frasier, the first few seasons of Will and Grace, and then it got dumb. Scooby Doo, love Scooby Doo, particularly the newest entrant in the franchise, Scooby Doo Mystery Incorporated. Highly recommended. It's on Netflix. Watch it. Seriously, watch it, or don't, but you should watch it. I liked How I Met Your Mother until the last 2 minutes of the show, and I will probably never be able to watch the show again because of how bad that episode was. Friends, I already said that. Modern things, I like Castle, I like Rizzolian Isles, I like NCIS New Orleans, don't really care for the other two all that much, but I will watch the original NCIS and NCIS Los Angeles, but mostly it's under duress, and I really don't pay much attention to them. Comedy-wise, there isn't really anything I'm watching anymore. I really like Gotham, but I'm behind. I like Once Upon a Time, and I'm behind, but I like both of those. So yeah. So those are things I like, TV show-wise. Book-wise, my absolute favorite book is Flowers for Algernon. I read it in the 7th grade in class. Like, we read it as a class. And the only other person who cried was my teacher. But I cried at the end. Yeah. I also really like the Harry Potter series. I really like the second half of the series of Unfortunate Events because it goes to some very interesting dark places and enters moral... I don't want to say... It enters into moral gray areas with the kids in ways that children's books typically don't, but they never really transcend into the young adult or the adult genres. So they're firmly still kind of in the children's area, which makes for very interesting interplay. I really like that. I like the Oz series. I like the Narnia series. Don't really like Lord of the Rings. I'm not big on high fantasy. I tend to prefer magical realism as compared to high fantasy. And I separate the two because high fantasy is stuff like Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones, whereas magical realism is more like Harry Potter, Wizard of Oz, Narnia, where it's people from our world going to a world of magic. They're kind of our conduit. I'm not really sure that's the right word. That's the word I'm going to stick with. Boop, boop, ba-doop. What else is there? Yeah, that kind of covers it book-wise. I like trashy celebrity tell-alls and nonfiction books about making of movies and musicals. And some normal biographies that aren't trashy, but the trashy ones are the better ones. Anyhow, favorite music. I mostly listen to Top 40 on the radio. I really like singer-songwriter and folk from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, although the stuff from the 70s, like Carole King and Simon and Garfunkel, which I know that's some 60s too, and James Taylor, really make me want to go protest the Vietnam War, which is kind of pointless because that's not going on anymore. But it does. It makes me want to. The train of thought just left me again. So those are the sorts of music I like. I like show tunes. I like a lot of show tunes. I have a lot of show tunes. And one word to best describe me, I'm going to go with eccentric, even though I know I don't have enough money to be classified eccentric. But eccentric is a nicer way of saying crazy. Alright, so that moves me into my fabulous video, or not fabulous video, my talking about variegated floss. I've done 2 projects that really featured it. The first was the Frosted Pumpkin Stitcheries Mysterious Halloween Town. And it used 4 different ones. It used 3 from the Gentle Art. And you can see them all right in here. So, if I can hang things right. So, it's used in the purple on bakery, the black part of the bakery signage and the bats and all, that's carriage black, the purple is lavender potpourri, and then the pink in the owl is called bubblegum. I think it was called bubblegum. Maybe not, but bubblegum. Bubblegum was the only one that was super variegated of the 3, and even then not so much. And then it used a week's dyed work, the name of which I don't remember. Um, because this was my first time using, and because I went it completely alone, no one told me you were supposed to complete each X in a variegation all at the same time. So I was doing it half stitch one way, finish it the other way. Next row. Which, fortunately, with general art, most of theirs are they're variegated, but so finely that you can do that, and it really doesn't cause a problem. However, with weeks, it can get interesting. Now, in this case, it kind of worked in my favor for two ways. A, I didn't really do a floss toss. I was just like, here's my floss. Oh, this is a color of fabric I really like. But, which was a mistake, and I should have known better, and I don't really know what I was thinking. I think because it was my first time in an LNS, which was Stitch Niche, that I was just so overwhelmed by all the stuff and things that I could touch and do and see and colors that I kind of just shut down. I have a tendency to do that. So I completed all of these going half stitch and then back. It worked out relatively well, except for this spot right in here, where it doesn't look like in some places there is, partially because of the color of the Ada, partially because I just apparently am an idiot. However, I do kind of like it because it's subtle enough so it looks more like actual grass. And not zebra stripes, which is my problem with variegated, and it's one of the things I really strive to avoid, unless I'm doing something like brickwork, in which case, yes, stripes are kind of okay. So the other project that really, really, really featured it was my Sans Serif Something Wicked. Now, by this point, I'd done enough. When I got to Stitch Niche, they said, hey, they'd asked me if I'd really, and I said, no, I hadn't really worked with variegated before. And they said, okay, what you want to do is complete each X individually. And I said, okay. And they said, and if you don't want stripiness, don't work it just in a straight line. What I think they intended was me to go, like, if these, say these are stitches, was go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then skip like that. I think that was what they intended. However, I didn't quite take it as that, because I'm me. And instead, I did something different, which fortunately was a happy accident. So even though I sound like I know what I was talking about, yeah, no, this was just all trial and error right here. Instead, I did something else which gave me this gorgeous crater effect. What I did was I went up one, over, down, over, up, over, down, over. Lather, rinse, repeat until I got done. And it created this great effect with the cratering. My stars, initially what I was going to do was I was going to do some of them in a spiral. Some of them I was going to go up, 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 up. Some of them I was going to go side, 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 side. Some of them I was going to go diagonal. Instead, I decided very quickly that spiraling worked best. And quite honestly, and this is a little bit of a tangential rant, but it's still on topic. One of the problems with this sampler was the colors were not super, super variegated. Or you could see the variegation on the cloth, on the spool, but you really don't see it in the actual pattern itself unless you're using your flash. So I think, and I could be wrong here, but I think when you look at the full picture that Sans Serif posted of it, there's super variegation, but all the colors look darker. So I think they actually darkened the photo so that the variegation showed better. You'll see kind of why I say that here in a moment. On this side, with the tree, I did something different. Because when you look at a tree, you've got the bark patterns that, it helps if I actually turn my fingers the right way, that sort of go like this, and follow the branches of the tree. So I wanted to create that similar effect. So the individual branches up here I actually did by themselves, but then when I got about here, I did the bottom row all the way around, and when I got to the edge, I went up a square, and I came back. And I just worked that back and forth. It was a little tedious, and it took a little bit of time. But I worked that back and forth until I got sort of the effect that you see of the tree branches. Now, the owl, I just sort of did my best with. I was having a lot of trouble. One of the flosses was crazy about, like, scrunching up, and it had been like that since I tried to unwind it and bobbinate it. I got off on my stitching, accidentally reversed the two colors at one point. It was messy. So the fact that the owl even looks okay is sort of its own miracle. The next thing was coming down to the bottom part with the sunflowers. Okay. With the sunflowers, what I did was I looked at the centers, and for the record, this was the first one. I'm flipping you off there. This was the one I did first. This is the one I did second. So I kind of learned a little on this one before I got here. What I did was I found the center of it, and I decided where the 4 quadrants were going to be. And then I worked them. And when I got sort of in between the areas, I tried to stair-step it as I created my rows so that it kind of blended, because I wanted the effect of flower petals. And it turned out better on this one than it did over here. Because I'd done it before already, so I had a better idea of what I was doing. The banner, I worked across and back and across and back. That one, it really was so lightly variegated that it just sort of creates kind of a wavy fabric-y look. I worked the button, or the flowers, which really they're more thistles than flowers, but still they're flowers. In a spiral, you really honestly can't tell all that much. The crows, I just sort of worked as I saw fit. Again, onyx is such a solid color anyways. It's so subtle you really can't tell. Then we get to the pumpkins, and this is why I also think you can't really tell where one color, except obviously on Mrs. Pumpkin, who has toppled over. You can't really tell. So what I did was I worked the outsides first, and then I worked my way inwards, and then I also found the center and sort of did a line down it, and worked that way, to kind of create the veins. So basically, when I do variegation, I look at the color, I look at the object itself, and I figure out if this were nature, how would this be doing it? And that's where you go. So this has gone on really long. So there you go, Kimmy. There are that's how I do my variegations. This is nearly 30 minutes, so I'm just going to wrap this up now. Have a good night, y'all. Next time, I will probably do the Stitchy Stash and Stitching Spot show off, if I can figure out a way to make that work. If not, I may just not do that one. Anyhow, so that's that. Have a good night, and I'll see y'all soon.